What is the best 9 and 10 combination for the Springboks in the Rugby Championship? That is what we will be discussing in today's video. As always, leave your opinions down in the comments. I try and get back to as many comments as I can. If you haven't, please like this video, and most importantly, if you haven't, please absolutely mud that subscribe button, because as you guys know, we're trying to interview Siya Kolisi and Rassie Erasmus by the end of the year, and we need to make some noise, so please go and mud that subscribe button. As you can see, my Springbok jersey is hung up. It's nice and washed again, but we are back out of this door this weekend down to Pretoria to go cover the Bulls versus Western Province game for the Currie Cup. We're going to film a very, very cool documentary, and we do have another documentary coming out tomorrow about Grey College. So make sure you are ready for that one. We put a lot of work into that, and it's pretty good if I don't say so myself. So who should be playing 9 and 10 for the Springboks coming into this rugby championship? Well, I think it's quite a complicated answer, because as we know, 9 and 10 is one of the two of the most pivotal positions in a rugby team, and especially with the Springboks. It has to complement the game plan that we're currently playing. In the 2023 Rugby World Cup, we saw a lot more of a defensive sort of game where we kicked a lot of ball, which is why Faf and Handré Pollard were the go-to guys. Handré Pollard with his boot, Faf with his kicking as well was very, very good. Now, coming into the Rugby Championship, we don't have Faf de Klerk. He has been injured, and I do think that is a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because it gives us, Rassie and the Springboks, opportunities to test out some of these new scrum halves, your Grant Williams, your Morne van den Berg, and then obviously we do have Kobus Reinach in the shed. Now, I did see a couple of comments on yesterday's video saying that Kobus Reinach is also 34. Isn't he too old to be in the Springboks squad? The same goes for Willie Leroux, but I do think there is a definite distinction between a forward, especially a prop like Trevor Nyakano being 35, and a scrum half or fullback being the same age. There's not as much contact throughout their lifetime. It's not as much of a physical game for a scrum half or a number 15. It's more of a rugby IQ type of game, where when you're a prop, it's a lot more physical and you really have to exert yourself. So matching up that number 9 with the number 10, which our options are Handré Pollard, Manie Libbok, and Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu for the Rugby Championship, is going to be very, very interesting to watch and see how Rassie Erasmus goes about that. But it is very important to get that combination right. Now, they could just go for the normal Kobus Reinach and Handré Pollard with Faf de Klerk being injured, but I do think there are a couple of other more interesting combinations that we could go for. We've seen now that Tony Brown has come in, and we've seen in the first 4 games that the Springboks have played that they're trying to play a more attacking style of rugby. I think the best example of that attacking style of rugby was in the first half at Loftus against Ireland, where we really seemed to be clicking. Everyone knew what was going on. The second test, maybe not so much. Wales, we had a decent game, but again, didn't sort of click. Portugal was a completely new team. So making sure that we get the right players in the right positions under the right system is what's going to make this combination work. Now, let's just chat through the scrum halves to start off with. Kobus Reinach, Grant Williams, Morne van den Berg. Now, for me, I don't think it makes as much sense to start Kobus Reinach against Australia, New Zealand, or Argentina, because remember, we are trying to build up to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. So we need to give players opportunities who will most likely be in the squad by 2027. I have no doubt that Kobus Reinach will still be in and amongst the squad by the 2027 Rugby World Cup, but I don't think he's our best scrum half at the moment. If I had to rank the 3 scrum halves that we have, for me personally, it's probably Grant Williams, then Kobus Reinach, and then Morne van den Berg. Now, are Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks going to throw Morne van den Berg into the deep end and really see what he's made of? Probably not. Grant Williams, we know how good he was for the Sharks this season, and I think it was in the semi-final or final of the Challenge Cup. We really saw how good his tactical kicking is. I mean, you need a number 9, especially if we don't have Handré Pollard at 10. You need a number 9 who can send over those box kicks, pinpoint accuracy to give the likes of a Cheslin Colby, Kurt Lee, and Samapimpi to chase onto those kicks. So for me, I do think Grant Williams is our best scrum half in the squad at the moment. Whether Rassie goes for him, I won't know, but at the end of the day, this is going to be my opinion. This is going to be who I think should start at 9, who I think should start at 10, and I'm going to give you the reasons why. So for me, I would start Grant Williams in that number 9 jersey, especially against Australia. Maybe Faf is back by the time New Zealand comes, but then again, the argument is should we not test Grant Williams? Should we not test Manie van den Berg? Should we not give Kobus Reinach a couple more opportunities? So just looking at sort of the first two tests against Australia, I would definitely go Grant Williams at 9. Then we move over to the number 10 conversation, and there's been a lot of chatter about this on this channel, on social media, on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, on who should be in that number 10 jersey. Now we have 3 very, very different fly-offs and 3 fly-offs that can produce different results. Handré Pollard, I still think he's our number 1 fly-off at the moment. Handré Pollard, we know what we're going to get. It's not going to be as attacking as... It's not going to be too much running rugby. He's very good at his tactical kicking. We know what we're getting off the tee from Handré Pollard. We saw him almost win the game for the Springboks in the test in Durban against Ireland, where he kicked 8 penalties. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. So we know what we're going to get from Handré Pollard. Cool ice, cool veins, BMT. Nothing really phases him. But does he fit well into Tony Brown's system of this new attacking style of rugby? Then we've got Manie Libbok, who I think is under some serious pressure, especially because Feinberg-Mngomezulu is now in the mix. But Manie, for me, is probably one of our best attacking fly-offs. I think his attack is slightly better than Handré Pollard. Now, attack isn't the only thing in rugby, right? A fly-off needs to be able to kick. A fly-off needs to be able to attack, defend, control the game. There's a lot that goes into that position. I thought Manie created some great opportunities in that Portugal test. And yes, it was only against Portugal, but I do think Manie Libbok under Tony Brown makes sense. We saw how good he was in the Scotland game in the Rugby World Cup. We know how good he has been for the Stormers. And if he can just sort out his goal kicking, I know that's going to be a couple of the comments on this video, but how can we have a number 10 if Manie can't kick? Well, I think the answer then becomes Feinberg-Mngomezulu, right? We saw how good he was at fullback in that Ireland test, his counter-attacking capabilities. I think he's a little bit bigger than Manie. He's a little bit better on defense. And he's got the BMT that Handré Pollard has. Yes, he was kicking against Portugal and maybe the stakes weren't as high, but we saw him slot that penalty against Wales from 55 odd meters or whatever. Feinberg-Mngomezulu just looks like he belongs in a Springbok jersey. It looks like he's got the EQ and the IQ to be a Springbok. So with those 3 options, bearing in mind that Grant Williams should be starting at 9, especially against Australia. New Zealand might be a bit of a different conversation if Faf de Klerk's back, but we could go safe and go Handré Pollard. I have no problems with that. But again, it comes down to the game plan, Tony Brown's game plan. We could go Manie Libbok, which again, I have no problems with, as long as we play Feinberg-Mngomezulu at number 15 and he can kick for poles. I think that's sort of the only way we can play Libbok at 10 at the moment, if he hasn't sorted out his kicking, is to make sure that there is someone else in the team who can kick. We saw Damian Willemse, we saw Faf de Klerk do that job in the Rugby World Cup. And I think if Sasha starts at 15, then we definitely start Manie Libbok at 10. He gives us that more attacking-minded style of rugby, gets to open up the backline a little bit. But if Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu doesn't start at 15, then I don't think Manie Libbok is an option at 10 necessarily. Again, with the caveat that as long as he has sorted out his kicking, he still is a very, very good 10. So for me, for the Australia test, I think Australia maybe aren't up to the standard of an Ireland. They definitely aren't. It is always difficult playing away from home, so you might see Rassie Erasmus go for Handré Pollard just to sort of level the ship and get things operating before those New Zealand tests. But in an ideal world, for me, I would play Grant Williams at 9, then I would play Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu at 10 and really give him a go in a rugby championship. Give him 80 minutes. Let's really see what this young prospect can do. He has proved himself in sort of these utility positions, coming on at 15, coming on at 10, kicking for poles. His counter attack is really, really good. Yes, he did miss a tackle against Portugal, but that cover defense is always very, very difficult. But for me, I think Grant Williams at 9, Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu at 10, Handré potentially on the bench, maybe even Manie Libbok on the bench. It's going to be interesting to see. That's my thinking. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I will reply to as many as I can. Leave this video a like. And as always, please absolutely murr that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.